What is up, Sooner Nation? It's Coop here with Unfair Sports, and welcome to Sunday, June 9th, 2024. And we are getting right into the middle of recruiting official visit season. We've had camps at in Norman, and we've got quarterbacks coming in. So here we go. So we got our boys Jason from Hall of Fame in the house and PG from the PG Show. Guys, how are y'all feeling here?
Feeling good. It's a good Sunday. Cooking some ribs, so I'm ready for those to finish.
Yeah.
It's always good. It's always good when, just kind of thinking back on the week that was and, horns down and all.
Definitely so. Definitely so. Well, I mean, I did ribs yesterday. I did some ribs and chicken. We had a little guys' day, and it was crazy. I literally spent most of the day cooking. I've taken a shower yesterday. I took one this morning. I can still smell the smoke, so the barbecue, and it just won't leave me. So it's all good. It's all good. Hey, listen, I can tell you this is PG and we could do a little rib off, and it's definitely not going to get made fun of on the internet. I can promise you that. So
just my brisket.
Just the brisket. Jason, I don't know much about your cooking prowess. Are you a kitchen dweller and a grill dweller, or
the grill? The grill,
okay.
The grill. Yeah, smoker, grill, stuff like that. Yeah, probably my best thing would be steaks though, but I don't do too bad on the brisket. It's nothing Lincoln Riley like or anything like that.
I got to get a different smoker because I got one of those Pit Boss, but I got like one of the cheaper ones.
Yeah.
And so they don't hold heat very well. And also they have a tendency to catch fire if they get too many pellets in them. I found that out one too many times. So I think I just gotta get a new smoker. I think that will fix my brisket problems.
So I've got one of the Gravity, the Master Chef Gravity series, where you throw it in the side. And I love it just because I can use charcoal and I can keep that stuff going. And I can throw the smoke wood on there. I don't really love it for just normal grill. I think I'm just going to go get, one of those little Weber, like $60, charcoal grills that you just throw there. That's little like half circle. I think that's what I need to get because, when you've got the Gravity series, you don't have the actual like direct contact with any of the, which creates the smarkle. So
you got to get you a flat top grill.
Oh, see, I've got. That was Father's Day last year. Is they got me the 36-inch Blackstone, and bro, it's a boss. I love it. I've got a little one I've got one that I take camping with me, and it just sits in the garage. And I've got the adapter with the big propane tank. But that big one, I mean, it's kids love what they call volcano onions, so they love the hibachi style cooking. And then, anytime you want to burger it up, it's always the good piece too. So, but we are here today because if you guys didn't know, we had camps going on. These things, I was listening to the Sooner Scoop podcast the other day, and they were going back in time and talking about how the, when you used to come to these camps, like there might be one or two guys that you're really wanting to get out and see, but now these camps are so full of so many great kids. So PG was out there, and so I wanted to bring PG on to share some of his experiences because you're worn out. I heard that, but give us your little breakdown from the camp. Who was there first and foremost, as far as just like the general population, and outside of that, how fun was that, PG?
Oh, well, it's a lot of fun. I went to it last year, and I only went to one session last year, but this year I'm going to try to make it out to all of them. But it is like it's star-studded if you know who you're looking for. You're not going to come in there and see a bunch of current class recruiting guys. Like we saw Kevin Sperry there for both sessions. Yesterday you saw Elijah Thomas. Who's the Carl Albert kid, the cornerback? I can't think of his name at the moment. He showed up. The 4-star out there. And then you obviously had your official visitors on, but you don't get those 2025 guys normally. It's going to be future kids. So you got to know who you're looking for. And of course, it was headlined by Darian Coleman because everybody's going back and forth on if it's going to be Jaden O'Neal, is it going to be Darian Coleman, or does both commit? I know that it's very unlikely both commit because there is one of them specifically that does not really want to have the other one in that room. Like they kind of just want to be the guy. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But Darian Coleman, seeing him in person, like he is what everybody makes him out to be. He has a really smooth like touch when he throws the ball, but he is really short. He's probably shorter than me, and I'm 5'11". So that's, I feel like, maybe an inhibitor a little bit. I feel like you'd want Jaden O'Neal just for like the height and the athleticism, because I think Darian Coleman's got athleticism, but Jaden O'Neal's got the height to pair with it. Felix Ojo, I love this kid. Like, I knew I loved him when I saw his Huddle film, but seeing him in person, like, dude, he has the frame to be a perfect Bill Beatonbow offensive lineman. And then you got this kid right here, and he was showing out all day. And I'm going to try to get his name right. It's Kedrick Osunday Brown, but he's number 496, and you'll see him a couple times here in these one-on-ones, and then there's a couple times just in the regular training sessions that they do, or I don't know what they call those when they like go through drills, but he showed out, and there were a couple times where like maybe he missed the route or things like that, but I feel like a lot of that's just paired with, hey, you're being thrown a ball by a quarterback that you have no idea, no chemistry to. So I thought I was really impressed with him, and I think this is a guy that you're going to see Emma Jones go after. And the only reason why I say that is he got a lot of one-on-one time with Emma Jones, just talking and things like that. So those are the kind of things that I was looking for. Who are the coaches pulling aside? Who are they talking to? Who are they specifically working one-on-one with? Those were the guys that I really wanted to pay attention to. And then you had a lot of really big offensive linemen show up, especially in day 2. I think that's when they were most noticeable. Drew Evers was there. I think a lot of people will know that name from Nick Evers, the quarterback that ended up transferring to Wisconsin. Now he's at UConn. But Drew Evers, like, he is really talented. He's a lot better than his brother. He's definitely the most talented. I would really like to see him end up in a Sooner uniform. But then you've got, I'm not even going to try to say the first name, but it's PM Primus. That's what I'm going to say. PM Primus. Yeah. Monster of a kid. Monster kid. He had some really good reps. But I think the kid that I was most impressed with throughout the 2 days was Dominic Williams' brother. And the only reason why I say that is because multiple times, and I don't have it in these film videos because the one you guys are seeing is just day 1, but he was winning reps against guys that are like 6'7", 6'8". And you know how big Williams is? He's like 5'10", 5'11". He's not very big. Not tall yet. So he's winning reps against guys that are like 6, 7, 8 inches taller than him, which I think is huge. So overall, you did have a lot of really young kids there, 28. I got to see QB Nash Henry. He's been to Oklahoma several times last year and this year already. And he's out of Norman North, I believe. So I think, that's one that Oklahoma fans could learn in 2028. Oklahoma threw out a 2027 QB offer, but you also had Rozzy Sperry there, which, hot take, Rozzy Sperry might be better than Kevin Sperry. Just saying, like, he's right there, standing next to Darian Coleman. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say it looks like little Sperry right there.
Yeah, he's really. I think he's gonna be really special. So yeah, no, it was really fun. It's a great experience to get out there and really just get an eye for who some of the big targets might be coming up in the future.
And so, seeing some of the coaches, obviously that's going to be there. What players were out? I heard a lot of the players were out working with some of the campers. And so who'd you see out working with kids?
Well, so OU fans will be excited to hear this. The defensive line's for real. Like, those guys look like absolute monsters. Of course, we all got to see Dominic Williams out there. The only defensive lineman that I didn't see was Grayson Halton and Devon Sears. Those were the only ones I didn't see walking around campus at all. So I was kind of wondering where they were at. Offensive line, I saw Heath. I saw Daniel Akinkumi. I actually got to sit and talk with Daniel Akinkumi for like 30 minutes. He was sitting in his mobility scooter because, he had an injury. Yeah. So he was sitting on the sidelines, but he was really getting to take it all in. And Bill Beatonbow actually came up and talked to him while I was standing there. So that was an interesting conversation to kind of listen to and kind of understand those guys' relationship. But on the defense side of the ball, you had Ethan Downs out there. You had Nick Anderson, Jaden Gibson out there. So you had quite a few guys. Michael Hawkins, Jackson Arnold working with the QBs on day 2. I didn't see who was out there on day 1. So yeah, there were a lot of good guys out there. And let me tell you, talking to some of the players, they're pissed. They're ready for this season. They've heard the noise. They've seen these lists. Like, we've talked about them and talked about how disrespectful are. The players have seen them too, and they understand how disrespectful they are.
So, I mean, I'm starting to hear that more and more. And, I'm going to get you guys' opinion on this because it's kind of important to me to kind of think of it, because when you're an athlete and, with the social media pieces, you always want to hear when, people just stay away from the social media. And I think that there's a fine balance between like looking out there, seeing what's going on, seeing some of the lists. Like, obviously BB is going to use that. I'm assuming that any of the other coaching staff is going to use the same thing too. But before we get into you guys' opinions around that, I just want to get a little shout out in the chat. So just guys, thanks for coming on here Sunday. Jay is on the vacation. And so I think that when Jay goes on vacation, he just he just has the family with him, right? Instead of just traveling for work normally. But Topher, what's up? What's good? Rhyming Lemon, I love you, man. How you doing? JC, what is going on? And let's see here, Mars, you guys are all coming in. So if you guys have not, hit that like, hit the subscribe. And what's up, Greg Williams? And, we just appreciate everybody in here. And, we heard some of the call outs. And so I hit up, Miss Evers, Monica, and she wants to come on. So I think we're gonna be bringing Monica in because I would like to talk to, we talk to recruits, we hear some of that stuff, off field conversations and kind of in the text and, through DMs. We had a chance to hear a little bit from the parents. So I'd like to hear just, what Monica and her family has seen, just because, obviously when you bring in younger talent nowadays, it's completely different from even when Nick went through just a few years ago. Just everything is absolutely different. So, so appreciate you guys, wanting to hear from her. So, Jason, start out with you, man. How much do you want as the coaching staff to be? Oh, Sooner Cowboys, love you, man.
The guy that kidnapped Sooner Cowboys.
I know. It's the amazing amount of positivity coming from Sooner Cowboys here recently. I don't know. There's an alien or something. So, but Jason, press clippings, lists. I always poo-poo on the list because it's just trying to create content for the dead area, the dead period. And so that's why you see guys like Reston Gant coming up with 6 lists, not Preston. We know who Preston is. We don't know who Reston is. So, Jason, how much weight do you give when it's when you actually see these lists as a coach? What do you think your paying attention level would be?
Well, if you're not up on the list, I'm paying a lot of attention to it because I want my players to see that. You know what I mean? It's something that, and I think it's pretty clear that these guys are definitely making sure that the players know what the SEC and what the national media and what a lot of these SEC pundits are saying about them all over YouTube, all over anywhere that content is made, which by and large has been trash. But I think it's also, when you start thinking about it, it's not everybody pays the kind of attention to it that say you and I and Preston do. We actually know what's on other people's rosters aside from Oklahoma's, but it's not the same everywhere else. I think you get a real surface level look at what they're doing, and you'll say something simple as what you always hear is the bowl game. Or for Jackson Arnold, or hey, they lost their entire offensive line, but they never throw in there that Bill Bedenbaugh's the offensive line coach, and he always puts by no later than mid-season or whatever that they have gelled together and they're just as good as usual. Or what you've got in recruiting or in the portal or anything, it's just like there's questions when it comes to another. If you're a fan of another program, questions means suck. You know what I mean? So, but not for your own questions for your program. Oh, it'll be all good. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's the nature of it. I think it's actually a lot of fun because it does create content. We get to talk back and forth a little bit. I mean, just for instance, I saw that Texas, one of the Texas, loudest creators on Twitter earlier was talking about how the SEC schedule was not going to be very daunting. Well, a little training wheel schedule over there, but okay. It is what it is. It's just a lot of trash being going back and forth. But to be honest, I mean, again, if you're Brent Venables or anybody on this coaching staff, are you not shoving everything you see in front of your players? I mean, that's where I'm at with it.
Definitely. I mean, you can't let these things come in and then just be like, it's all crap. Nobody knows who this writer is. Don't worry about it. Because I mean, like you said, you want to show that. But then, I mean, even if you're number 2 on the list, you want to come up and be like, I mean, I see you guys out there. I thought you guys were better, right? But I would say that I got to give a little credit because I mean, if you are someone trying to grow your channel, if you're trying to grow your following, number one thing that you should probably go
bag
slice
on
OU
Oklahoma
somehow. If you bag on Oklahoma immediately, just because of the massive amount of fan reaction. Now you've got crazies in there too, and I think sometimes we can go ahead and be one of the crazies, but. Yeah, I mean, people are going to do that, but let's be honest. Half these people haven't seen most of these teams play. Half these people are just throwing out stuff just to keep, this is staying top of mind. So, PG, give me your thoughts on it. What do you think about list season and, how intense should the coaches be about this?
Yeah, I mean, lists have their place. But again, when I was sitting down, I was talking to a specific OU player this weekend about it. Because I asked him to expound on the list, and a lot of it came down to not only just feeling disrespected about the lists that are out, but it's compounding off of last season. So Billy Bowman doesn't win the Jim Thorpe Award, and he honestly should have been a finalist. Like there's some feeling there from the players about that. Same thing with Danny and the Butkus. Like, these players, they want their teammates to have that success. And then when they come out and then they see, oh, well, our safety room isn't top 10, or you start to see these like super early lists of who's going to win what award. And you don't see your OU players on there. And it's like, well, we got a guy that's a returning senior, could have went and been a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick, and he's back. Like, and he's not on this list, but there's 5 stars on there, 5-star true freshman, and that just doesn't make any sense. So I think like there's a place for these lists because it helps the players have like a little bit more of a reason to go want to go out there and beat the heads off of some of these players, right? Like it gives them more of a reason. We give them a little bit more motivation in the summertime when maybe, it's like, oh, well, it's summer. We're still like 3 months away from football or whatever it is. So they have their place. I don't think you should put like 100% stock in it because again, like these insiders and analysts, unless they work for OU Insiders, Sooner Scoop, or 247, they probably really don't have an idea of what this team is actually going to look like. Like I've said it multiple times, in my opinion, I think this offensive line is going to look a lot better than what the actual media thinks it's going to look like. The starting offensive line is probably going to be middle of the tier in the SEC, maybe a little bit better than that. And the second string, I mean, if certain players step up, I think it could be pretty decent. Like you have 99 starts between 3 projected starters on the offensive line in Fabichi Wewu, Michael Tarquin, and I'm trying to think of somebody else. So it's not like you're bringing in a bunch of 5-star true offensive linemen and saying, all right, let's figure it out. Let's just go out there like Texas did, which it worked for Texas that one year they did it. But
so I was thinking about this earlier too, because if somebody in the chat is going to have to help me out here, but I think that like coming into this season, when I saw the win total for the Thunder, I thought, man, I feel like they're going to be better than I feel like they just progression without adding Chet Holmgren. Like that already gave their number a boost. Now, I didn't think Chet Holmgren needed to be phenomenal to boost them, but at the same time, it just is what it is, right? So, I mean, I think that's how we look at it, because I think there's a lot of people who are in the same boat. We're like, I'll take that over on that all day every day of the week. And that's where a lot of us are with Oklahoma, with the 7.5 or whatever it is. Like, it's just silly because it's a bunch of people who don't see it every single day. So, if we look at those over/under win totals, these lists and everything, I mean, I got to think that, like, when it's really just the coaches sitting in there, I wonder if a couple of coaches are just like, man, people are going to find out and it's going to be glorious. And I really do think that the coaches believe in this team to make some damage. And you know what? There is the juggling between, hey, pointing out the list and saying, forget the list. Like, you guys know who you are. And that's not only, just with some of the parents. And I do want to point out, Mr. Bowers, Lemon is right. You are on the beach in Puerto Rico looking at us. That is the second most flattering thing that has ever happened to me with the channel. Second most flattering thing in my life is that, and I think it was it might have been Mr. Powers again with the first most flattering. But anyway, I just say, I appreciate you guys, all the parents and everything in here. But when I say this, is like, I think that from just the message that Brent and the coaching staff are trying to give to this is know your own worth, and don't let anybody besides the Lord, your parents, and yourself tell you how much you're worth. That's where you need to be seeking your self-value, and don't limit yourself because some blind press member put out a list and has you at the 80th best or whatever. So that being said, let's go ahead and move it on, because I want to kind of get into the quarterbacks of 26 PG. And Jason, you and I talked a little bit about this on your show, but right now with both O'Neal and Coleman, these are two guys who absolutely love the Sooners, right? Both of them are, with O'Neal, you've got the taller guy who has the capability to really just grow into that dude, right? And then with Coleman, you've got what a lot of people see as, maybe a Kyler Murray-esque type of an athlete, a little bit better on the move, out of the pocket. So there's some whispers right now where people are saying, like, could we take two? My personal opinion is if you can take both of them, you bring both of them on. Like, that's absolute. But in this world that we live in, what do you guys think as far as bringing in both of these guys, if that's a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes down to do both players want to have both of those guys there, right? They're both really talented players. Jaden O'Neal is like a top 150 guy. Darian Coleman's going to work his way into that territory.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I feel like, a situation where you have Spencer Rattler starting for you and Caleb Williams sitting down on the bench. And it's like, Caleb Williams could play for you. Like, I think it's just, it feels like the competition at that point becomes too deep for those two. And then one of them's got to transfer, and that don't look good on you when you got to transfer. So I think Oklahoma only takes one. And I think the one that you want is Jaden O'Neal, because if you go and you watch Jaden O'Neal's film, he's just as athletic as Darian Coleman, but he's 6'3", 200 pounds. Like, I understand we made it work with Kyler Murray, but like, I still want my quarterback to have some height. I need him to be able to see over some of these offensive linemen, especially since, guys, Bill Bedenbaugh had offensive linemen there this week that were 6'7", 6'6". Like, you can't have a 5'10" kid out there trying to see over offensive linemen that big.
He's
going to miss Deion Burks. Like, he's going to miss guys like that.
A little bit. I mean, he's a sophomore.
I think you both of them. I mean, I think both of the guys will actually have a little bit more growth to them. But I mean, you look at big cats like like DJU, like, you get a guy like that with the size and he can sling. I mean, you take the size, but at the same time, this is kind of like, choosing between two fine bourbons. I mean, I think we win one way or the other, right, Jason?
I think so, and I would also say that you can never underestimate the competitive, juices of guys like this. I mean, whether or not, I mean, they're going to compete against each other on the camp scene and all that other kind of stuff there too, but they don't get to be top ranked quarterbacks in the country, in the top 150 or top 100 or top 30. But you don't get to be that guy without believing in your game and what you have. Now, yes, obviously, physically speaking, I would say that Jaden O'Neal is obviously the guy that looks to be the part. But again, when you start thinking about guys, like, you just said it yourself, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, they weren't the biggest dudes out there in the world, and they got out there and got it done anyway. So the truth of it is, I think a lot of it's going to boil down to what do you see out of this offense over the next couple of years, and what, you've got quarterbacks in the queue right now that are probably going to eat very well over the next couple of years. I think that when you have the kind of weapons around them that they're putting around these guys too, I think that as a quarterback, why would you not want that? So I think that that's also one of the things that really probably attracts these guys that are top signal callers. And plus, it's quarterback this is Oklahoma. They Heisman trophies, happen here. So I could see that happening, and it never hurts to have competition. And even if you're the guy that doesn't come out on the right side of that, if you lose it to a guy like that, and I don't think that they look at it that bad if you transfer to somewhere else. I just don't. I think that it depends on the situation, but two freshmen coming in at the same time, one develops a little quicker than the other, whatever, but there will be people recruiting both of these guys all the way up until signing day, next year. So I would guess that they'll have options if they didn't work it out. But who's to say they don't want to? I mean, look, you haven't lost any of the guys that are in the room right now with Jackson and then Hawkins behind him still, and then Sperry coming in from this class. So, I mean, looks like right now the guys that they want that are competitive and want to, develop and have an opportunity, I don't think that they seem to be too concerned about who's in the room with them.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to lose an offensive lineman here soon, or not offensive lineman, a quarterback soon. It's bound to happen. Like, you've got too much talent in that room and one of these guys is going to get snubbed of playing time. Like, they're like, not everybody's going to be able to play 2 years. It's going to get to the point where somebody's going to lose a year, and
this is not a bad problem.
They might not get that opportunity.
Yeah.
I just think when it comes to these two, getting both, I think is an unrealistic expectation. And I mean, I've been told that UCF and Darian Coleman might be a thing. So I mean, although Oklahoma's the dream school, I think Seth Luttrell has Jaden O'Neal as his number one option.
Yeah, and so I want to bring up this because Lemon brings up the question. So obviously, if you bring two guys in, what does that mean for Sperry or Hawkins? The very, very parent answer for this is it's a good problem to have, and you just keep on stacking talent and you address it as you need to. I don't think that Jackson Arnold, Michael Hawkins, Kevin Sperry, and let's go with O'Neal/Coleman, one of those guys will not end up at Oklahoma. That's just the numbers that you kind of look at. Just because I think that if you have a guy who, I mean, there's just opportunity to come in and to take the job, and it's just hard for every single day you are doing practice. Every single day you're getting in and you're going through meetings and whatnot, and so it's hard to have an actually stacked quarterback room. And I know we got at least one Texas guy in here, but you see, like I saw a list where it has like, is Texas the best quarterback room in the country? Those aren't things that I want to see about Oklahoma, just to be honest, because I don't need anybody else being like, hey, all three of you guys are good, and only one of y'all can play, so why don't you head somewhere else? So I'm okay with people not going, crazy over your backup quarterback, but it's not just full on high talented guys that they're bringing in. They're bringing in phenomenal human beings. And that's more and more as I'm seeing. And Jason, you and I have done interviews together, starting out with like Nigel was our first one that we did together. There's not an interview that any of us three have done to where you're like, man, that kid is a turd. Like every single person you talk to is like, man, I just want to be his friend now. Like I just knowing that
Nor have
person
you-
will make me a better person.
Nor have you heard any of them say that they're afraid of competition either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the one thing that I always go back to is what do you hear from BV all the time? That if you're not a guy that wants to come in here and it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done, and you know that you want it to be that way because there's a standard that you have to live up to, then we don't want you to come here. So I mean, it's very clear what he expects. I mean, you know, Reggie Powers' dad being in the audience here with us right now, I can imagine that he's heard this speech before. And I think it's, if you are saying the same thing all the time, then that's, they have to expect that. They have to know that, hey, guess what? Go win the spot. Go win the spot. Because guess what? We are going to recruit guys to beat you out of your spot every year. That's their job. So to me, I don't think it's a problem to have it all. I know that quarterbacks are a little different than the rest of the positions, and not even necessarily completely different, but it's heightened more because of the fact that it's one spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, you can only play one at a time. So I get it. I understand that, and they're all going to do what's best for them, but what's best for them could be to be at Oklahoma. You know,
and
so
this is the thing that's going to make it really hard, because I see somebody talking about Lincoln Riley here in the chat, and this is where I'm going to go to bat for Lincoln Riley, and people don't like this. Lincoln Riley was bringing in elite quarterbacks, and you know how hard it is to recruit more elite quarterbacks when you have a guy in there that you know is going to be a 3-year starter, and you're going to have to sit behind him for 3 years. Unfortunately, with Oklahoma, you ain't got that yet. Jackson Arnold has not hit the field for a whole season for recruits to go, damn. And Michael Hawkins is behind him. Well, I ain't going to play for 3 years there or 4 years there. Like, that's going to become a conversation in these recruits' head, but we got to see, like, these kids got to hit the field first. So Oklahoma's stacking talent right now, but Lincoln Riley didn't have that luxury. He got here, he had really good quarterbacks, and recruits looked at the situation and went, yeah, I'm not going to be able to play for 3 years behind Caleb Williams or this kid. So maybe I'm not going to Oklahoma, because he went after the top tier recruits. He just couldn't get him to come here. Too much competition, and there's only one quarterback spot. And you're not going to go off the assumption of, oh, yeah, that guy will get hurt.
What are you getting to? What are you getting at, though, PG?
What I'm getting at is right now, Oklahoma has a stacked room at the quarterback position with a lot of talent. Right. You're not going to get 2 guys in 2026, and there's a chance you could lose somebody in this room. Like, you could probably lose 1 or 2 guys if Jackson Arnold goes out there as an absolute stud, but then Michael Hawkins comes in and is an even better athlete, because then people are going to say, well, I got to sit behind Michael Hawkins for 3 years, or I've got to sit behind Jackson Arnold for 2 years. Like, there's going to be the time window for a player to hit the field. It's not going to be long enough for some of these kids to want to come sit behind elite quarterbacks.
But I think that a guy like Kevin Sperry, we've noticed that he's never really wavered, though, off of, I don't think he expects to come in and play day one. I don't think that, from everything I can tell from the way he is and the way his family is, they're just about Oklahoma.
Yeah, but what if he comes in, let's say Michael Hawkins has another 2 years left and he's only going to get 1 year of playing time, or Jaden O'Neal comes in and beats him out. Like, I mean, there is that potential possibility.
Again,
these are in that room, and it's just,
but these are first world problems that we're talking about. So, because if you think about what it was like when Lincoln left, what was the room like? Because
the cupboard was bare. But I mean, I also this is where I'm going to defense too. People need to understand why the cupboard was bare. You had Rattler and you had Caleb Williams in that room. There weren't going to be any other quarterbacks coming to. I mean, unless you came in to be a Brandon Zerbrug, you weren't coming to this room.
Yeah, I would say this, though. Rattler was a miss. Caleb Williams was not a miss. So Lincoln Riley literally recruited 1 quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, he tried.
That was somebody.
I mean, he tried to get Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I think Spencer Rattler would have been better. I think Lincoln Riley was the wrong system for him.
What are we talking about?
I tried to date Scarlett Johansson, and look where I'm at. So I ended up better, just in case Nicole watches this. But no, I just want to say this is, it's when you have quarterbacks coming, we need Jackson to go ahead and start that, like, oh wow, look at what they got. Because I agree with what you say on that, PG, is like, we don't have a guy who is untouchable right now in that quarterback room because nobody has proven it. And if anything, if you've learned anything as an Oklahoma fan, it's this: 5-star quarterback with expectations and physical talent doesn't mean winning quarterback, and winning at the level that we're looking for. That also being said, I don't want people to be like, well, Jackson Arnold was 10 times better than Caleb Williams or Spencer Rattler, because we're going to be playing with two different teams and team concepts, just all in all. And we're going to have a powerful offense, but we're also going to have a much more powerful defense. Whereas that was not a priority. The defense was not a priority. It was, how do we manage good enough? How do we get good enough on the field? And so, again, I don't think that – I think this, with Oklahoma and Texas both doing what we are currently seeing them do, this is what both teams want to run into the SEC with, because the last thing you want is, I mean, being light in the quarterback room trying to, hop into this conference. Like, you're just not going to make it happen. You got to have some hope on the quarterback side, because I was listening to Oklahoma Breakdown, and Teddy Lehman was talking about the NFL. Again, two different leagues, completely understand that. But he's talking about how when he was on teams that actually had a quarterback that was going to take them to the playoffs, the morale, how the teams were ran, everything about the team is completely different than running in and going, Sam Darnold, shoot. This is not fun, because, I mean, I'm just telling you, I know that our boy Trav, who is a huge Vikings fan, a lot of Vikings fans around me. How would you like? I mean, you're just not too happy that you've got a rookie, and I think Sam Darnold as your starting quarterbacks, and that's a scary place to be, because, I mean, you just can't see what your future looks like if you don't have a quarterback.
Well, and
the other thing is,
go ahead, PG.
No, I mean, and I love the comparison between, if you have a quarterback winning the Super Bowl, like, the team's going to play different. Hence, look at 2021 Oklahoma. Caleb Williams comes in, and it felt like that offense was clicking way better. But I think the thing that's going to be concerning is if you go after this season and you're still stacking quarterback talent at the rate that you have, that means somebody hasn't stuck out well enough to steal the job.
Yeah.
And that's going to be concerning. So you almost kind of, at this point,
I don't think it's a concern,
pump the brakes a little bit, because you want somebody to be that good.
I think I don't see that as a concern that you have it. I think that it's a good thing that's going on, that you're building. What does he talk about all the time? Building competitive depth. I know that you're not going to end up with 5 guys in the room that are all, high 5-star guys, or even, top 150, 200 guys. You're not going to get that but you could get 3, 4, and because it does set up, if you get 2 every other year and 1 the next. I mean, you go back to thinking about what Bill Walsh back in the day used to say: you take a quarterback in the draft every year, just to see what happens. There's a lot of guys that will do that too at the NFL level, and I think that, I mean, for that matter, Brock Purdy, nobody gave him a second thought, and he started in the Super Bowl last year in his second season. So, I mean, we're talking about situations where you don't really know what's going to happen, and neither do they. And injuries, I think what Steele said, I love what he said, that we're about to start having to play more games. You're going to have the number 1 and the number 2 guy get to play often. It's going to have to happen. It's just the way it is. So, to me, the biggest point that I love that you made is, if you're a quarterback and you want to go win a natty and you want to really be on the biggest stage so that you give your best opportunity, you want to go play for Brent Venables, because he's going to put a defense like he did around Trevor Lawrence and around Deshaun Watson. And both of those guys went in the first round, early in the first round.
Yes, sir. I want to throw out Stink. Appreciate you, my boy, for the $20. Faith that Hawkins and young men coming behind them are going to stick with OU. So Hawkins, Sperry. PG, I'm starting to hear a few rumors that, we are looking very, very, very good when you are looking at Michael Hawkins Jr. A lot of people are starting to bring up the fact that he might throw a better ball than Arnold. And I think we're in a completely different type of a situation than Williams and Rattler. But is there a chance that when you have two absolute studs, one of them's a freshman? I mean, will we see two quarterbacks in meaningful times this year?
I didn't know if we were going to bring this up today or not. So I'm trying to figure out how to word this. So I did talk to somebody this weekend about this, and we were just asking about the team. How are people doing? And both quarterbacks bring things to the table in practice for this team. But I'm hearing Michael Hawkins is that dude. And it very well could be a Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams situation where if Arnold has to leave for any extended period of time, Michael Hawkins might take this job and never give it back.
We've been hearing that from Teddy for a while.
And to hear that from the people I heard it from was a little shocking. And I think a lot of it just is, Jackson Arnold doesn't have full offseason under his belt. And I think Michael Hawkins is a little bit more athletic than Jackson Arnold in terms of being a dual threat. So I think he can get out of a lot more situations, especially in clutch time. So yes, I think there's a potential chance you could see both quarterbacks play very meaningful snaps for Oklahoma. Who is the starting quarterback coming out of the end of this season? I really hope it sticks to be Jackson Arnold, but there's a chance that Michael Hawkins could take that job.
And it's not because Jackson Arnold sucks.
No.
That's not
these
saying
are
anything
two
bad about
guys.
Jackson.
Yeah, listen, and we are not bringing this up from hey guys, just getting it's just the fact that both of these guys are. I mean, Michael Hawkins. I mean, we were talking with his family during the spring game. You got to remember that dude grew up in the OU and Green Bay Packers locker rooms. He's been around NFL players his whole entire life. He's seen the difference between a winner and a great football player. He's seen a lot of those things. He's got, an enormous amount of great people around him, and his pops knows exactly how to handle that. So, again, I don't think this is a situation where you look at it and you go, man, I just hope that Jackson Arnold is good enough to keep that job. It's not that. He's going to be great. He's going to be very good. It's just the fact that Hawkins is, somebody asked about Avery Hodge in here. And Oklahoma, between Patty Gasso, between Skip Johnson, pretty much everybody. The next man up, next girl up mentality is something that Avery Hodge, bow down to Avery Hodge.
She's a baller, and she wasn't playing until the injury.
Until Torres got hit in the face. And so PG and we failed about 11 attempts at a softball podcast. So next year, maybe we'll have more life and more time. But I'll just say this is it's not even a next man up. It's you got to continue to compete as if when game time starts, you're walking on the field. And if you cannot have players doing that, you do not have competitive depth. There you go. It's been a while since we said it, kids.
Well, and BV has said it, and he proved it last year. He's going to play the kid that's best fit for the job.
Absolutely.
I hate to tell y'all, some of your favorite safeties this year might get beat out by Reggie Powers and Michael Boganowski.
Exactly.
They are that good. They're going to get some playing time,
right.
And they're going to steal some of that from somebody else. It's just the nature of it. And BV has realized he has to. This is what he has to do.
You start looking at Hawkins, Justin Harrington, and the same thing with Josiah Wagner. It's not that they weren't good. Neither one of them. It's not that they weren't good. It was that the guys that they recruited were better. And I think it's the same thing we've been talking about with other players that, maybe they're not getting it or whatever. I'm not going to bring up a name here because I'm tired of taking that beating. But, when you get in that situation, this is a competitive, when you really want to go for national championships, it's a competitive deal the entire way. And if you don't play the guy that's the best player, then you lose that locker room right now because those kids know who the best guy is. Period.
They do.
Hence, look at Caden Green this year. He got the starting offensive line, and he took that job, didn't give back.
Yep.
It looks good.
I think they're going to give Jackson, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know unequivocally that Jackson's going to lose his job, because I think he's got every tool in the toolbox that you need to be a first round draft pick. I mean, there's no two ways around it. It doesn't mean that he's necessarily better than what Michael Hawkins is or anything else. And sometimes these guys come out of nowhere, and from what you can tell, Hawkins, from his junior to his senior year, it was a whole new thing. You know what I mean? And so if you make that kind of a jump from your junior to senior in high school, then you make that kind of a jump again. I mean, you can see this, and he's a stud athlete. There's no two ways around it. But I also think that he's working on his craft to the point, just like Jackson is. And so, I think that with his speed and some of the things he can do, I think that you probably want to get him in there at least a little bit, whether or not you have an injury, right? I mean, that's just my feelings.
I mean, I've said it all off season. You have that main game in the middle of the year. I don't think you play your starters at all for that game. You roll in your second and third stringers, you roll in all those true freshmen, and you let them get as much experience as possible in the middle of the season. And you use
I don't
it
think
as
you can just be that game, though, that you do that. You don't just roll them in then. I think that when it comes to Hawkins and some of these other guys we're talking about, Powers, Boganowski, you need to, and truth is, injuries are going to force you to put some of these guys in anyway, because we're talking about an SEC schedule that is a lot tougher than the SEC schedule that Texas is going to go up against again.
Wait, and I just will say this is early in the season with the defense failed us in more ways than one. In the Lincoln Riley years, we could never have anybody. Boomer, do not open up that can. But
I knew that was coming somewhere.
No, I got abandoned. All right, guys. Again, thanks for pulling up. Sunday nights, June 9th. We appreciate you guys, everybody. I appreciate everybody pulling up here. We are going to go into another one, and I stole the idea long time ago, and I wanted to get into it. Gabe and Teddy kind of beat me with their Q&A session. So I don't want to talk about best offensive lineman of all time and best defensive line of all time. Guys, we're going to go linebackers and we'll go wide receivers. All right. So not all time. So from 2000 to today, we want to see who are your top three receivers. And I'm not going inside, outside, strong side, slot, anything like that. I just want I want your top three receivers since 2000. If you're in the chat, go ahead and hit us up with what you think your three are. I pretty much, this is going to be tough. This is going to be an absolute tough haul, just because the guys that you leave out all have arguments for them, right? So I'll open it up. Either of you guys, PG, I know that you said you got a schedule situation going on.
Go ahead,
you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can go first. Oh my gosh, this is a hard one. Ryan Broyles has to be up there. Like, he had 4,500 yards in his career and 45 touchdowns. So he's got to be in that list. I remember watching him when I was younger. That's actually around the time I started watching OU football. That's about time I got into middle school. And so it really started to come with me. But CeeDee Lamb has got to be in there, just because I felt like he could have won the what's the award for wide receivers? Yeah, but he ran into Justin Jefferson and the other guy. So I mean,
Marshall.
Yeah. So unfortunately, like, there's nothing you could do about that there. That third spot, though, I really want to give it to Sterling Shepard. I just love for Sterling Shepard, but Shepard. I don't know if he's the best option in the top three, though. I don't know if he's the best option for top three, but I'm going to give it to him.
Jason.
Yeah, this is not that really hard for me. It's D.D. Westbrook, CeeDee Lamb, and then it's Mark Clayton for me.
It's I can tell you this. I think that there's several. I think that you can go with a 5 or 6 deep on this.
I think you can too. I don't think you can be wrong here.
Because I mean, you got to say, if we're starting from 2000, you've got guys like Damian Mackey. You've got Antoine Savage. Curtis Fagan. These guys were all dudes. You put out Jalen Saunders. Jalen Saunders is a guy. There was a time that Julio Iglesias was the one thing that saved us against losing to Baylor when Baylor was dog crap. We went into overtime, and without Iglesias, we don't win that game. Then who was the I hate myself for going blank right now. Who was the guy that was he Kyler's teammate and all he did was catch touchdowns? Number 84, Lee Morris.
Oh, Lee Morris. That guy was nuts too. Manny Johnson, the big jump around game versus Tech. I mean, he balled out. So
Malcolm Kelly.
Malcolm Kelly is Travis Wilson, Malcolm Kelly. There's so many of these guys that were just absolute studs. Josh Norman was like the number 4 or 5 receiver on that 2000 class. He is making a difference day in and day out on the team right now. So my 3 are Broyles, CD, and Shep. Broyles, we saw what Landry Jones was without Brian Broyles.
And people forget Brian Broyles had a 1,600-yard season at one point.
Yeah.
But
the thing about Dede is he's the only guy that's won the freaking Biletnikoff out of Oklahoma receivers.
Well, that's also because Dede put like 3 years of production into like 7 games.
Now,
and he just went nuts.
He was also a top 5 Heisman guy too. You know what I mean?
Kenny Stills too. Kenny Stills.
It's just hard.
Was a bad dude too.
Somebody was going to get left out.
Yeah, you're going to have to leave people out. That's it.
And then nobody has said it legitimately as like one of the best ones, but can you say that this team looks very, very, very different and we are all a little bit sadder without Drake Stoops?
Yes.
Like, Drake Stoops potentially
he stepped up,
gave us 3 or 4 wins. I mean, how many clutch catches, how many different times to where you're like, we needed an absolute play and there's Drake.
He's an energy guy. He's never going to be one of the great wide receivers at Oklahoma, but he's an energy guy.
He's Julian Edelman, or he's
to your team. You can't make up in stats, and I think it's the same thing for Baker. Baker was a really good statistical quarterback. He's not one of the best. He's not like one of my top 3 at Oklahoma, but like what he brought to the team that you can't put into stats makes him one of the best at Oklahoma. Like, I mean, he brought that swagger that nobody else had. So, I mean, there's just things that you can't account
Baker had
for.
3 top 5s in the Heisman, man.
Yeah. I don't know. PG, you may have had a stroke and spoke out of stupidity for half a second there. I'm gonna back off that comment. We won't go into the quarterbacks today, but
I think Baker was really good. I just don't think he's top 3.
Oh my God.
We'll have to get into that a different day because I think we have got just under 500 on right now, and I think several people just had seizures. All right, so, but yeah, you've got
blasphemous. That is blasphemous.
You can even get in here and throw Mark Andrews. Throw Mark Andrews in there. We're seeing Steven Alexander's got a kid in camp that was here this weekend. So I mean, just tons of fun stuff. So. Now I understand why Gabe and Teddy didn't go linebackers because they may go. And I think that Gabe even said it because he doesn't want to like worship Teddy right in front of him. So, all right. So now we're going to go linebackers. So this is since 2000. Give me your top 3 linebackers since 2000.
Go ahead, PG.
No, you go ahead. You go first.
I'll give you. Well, it's definitely. I mean, Teddy Lehman is one of them. I think he's number 1 to me. And there's a lot of those guys though too. I mean, we're talking about some dudes that balled out in that. Yeah, I'll go with it. I'll go there. You guys go next.
Okay.
Marshall's
K9.
another good one.
K9. Curtis Lofton. Teddy Lehman.
Okay.
So now we're going to start getting in here because there's just so many people that we're going to quit. We're going to miss out on, and I'll go with mine. Mine was Rocky, Lehman, and Lofton. My heart hurts because I think that whereas Drake Stoops is like one of my heart support, like favorite wide receivers. I also think Jordan Evans at linebacker is one of my favorite Sooners of all time, just for his clutch factor. And that man knew how to stab Oklahoma State in the heart. He knew how to stab Oklahoma State in the heart. He could play like shit all year long and then look like an All-American against OSU, which we do quite often. But so, yeah, I mean, you get into Rufus Alexander, Torrance Marshall.
Yeah, Jimmy. I'm with Jimmy on that. I think he's right there with Teddy, and then I would probably go. Yeah, Rocky probably. I don't know, man. These are hard. And K9's another great one.
And Kendall Murray too.
Austin Box. Would you guys put him in there?
Yeah, I mean, Austin Box, God rest his soul. I mean, he was another guy that just absolute was crucial to this team, and we lost him too early, but he may have just not had enough time because I mean, like yes, and that's another thing we talked about. Guys like Obo and Stryker and there's several of those kids. Lewis Baker. Some people have already started throwing in Stutzman at this point, and so I mean, you just got an absolute. What was Ryan Reynolds? We saw what our team looked like before he got hurt, and then after he got hurt against Texas. So it's right there, Jimmy. Like Ryan Reynolds goes out and he is. I mean, it was an absence. It was just an absence. And Greg, yeah, I'm with you, man. Marshall's intimidating. I mean, him saying, we're coming for our boys' trophy. Yeah. We try to duplicate that against USC, and it went a little south on us. So I'm glad that we're getting guys, because in my head, part of me is going, say something about Kobe McKenzie, say something about Stutzman, say something, Travis Lewis is another big one. We're finally getting back to that world where we have linebackers who can lead this team on defense.
Curtis Lofton, I think that's you've seen that a few times in there, and I think you already brought him up. But wow, I mean, you start going through these, and you almost feel bad for forgetting to say somebody, and it's hard to not have recency bias and stuff like that as well. But these guys were ballers.
Yeah, I feel like Kenneth Murray though, he has to be at the top though, because like that man was stacking up the tackles.
And in a time to where the defense was dog crap around him.
Yeah.
Dude, and what did they – I mean, when you start talking about Teddy Lehman, I mean, you can Fatty's saying we talk all old dudes. No, hold on. I was just listening to, Barry and Mac the other day, and he was talking about how Teddy came in and was beating wide receivers in races. This is the kind of dude that he was. I mean, he was destined to be the guy that he was at – hey, man. He said he beat Torrance Marshall in a race too, and I mean, and not by he said he got him by a yard. That was a great story to listen to whenever he was talking about it. But yeah, man, I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. I think that you don't really realize the new guys' greatness until they're gone, anyways. Man, that's the thing. Is like 5 years from now, then you bring up Stutzman and Kip and whoever. You know what I mean? Depending on what happens here.
Yeah, it's too early to put them in this list right now.
Yeah, and I'd also say, like, you got guys like Brian Asamoah. Brian Asamoah didn't have a terrific career, but he balled out like towards the end of his career and just absolutely just turned in. Yeah, I mean, you listen to any of the stories about Lehman. I mean, the guy showed up to OU camp and ran, and it was like it was over at that point, right? And so I mean, it's good to see. Yeah, a lot of these guys have out, from further back. Are you out, PG? Do you gotta roll?
Yeah, I'm rolling.
Okay, PG, tell them where to find you one time before you bounce.
Yeah, y'all can find me over at the PG Show here on YouTube. We're gonna be talking about day 2 of camp tomorrow. We're gonna show you all some of the film from then. So make sure you guys tune in. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Hey, jump on the show with me one of these mornings this week if you want.
If I'm not working.
Okay, bro. Let me know.
Yeah.
Let me know if you have morning time. Yep.
All right, PG, take it easy, sir. So, I mean, I think that the more and more that we see these, the talent come through. There's just so many guys, and we need to get back to that spot to where like you're trying to find out how you put names into the best of since 2000. And when you currently look at it right now, like you could go quarterbacks and you could start talking about Jordan Thomas's, Parnell Motley's, Zach Sanchez, guys like that, who just seemed like they just didn't have the defensive coordinator to go along with.
Oh yeah.
With
Benito, guys like
with
that.
what's going on. Yeah, because when the suspended guys came back at the end of 2020, they just, that defense was salty. That defense was dirty. That Florida team scored against everybody, and it looked like Bishop Sycamore against us, in that bowl game. And so I'm really, really excited to get back to the days to where we've got. You've got a stacked room on a lot of those areas. I love seeing, Powers and Boganowski in here, and just chatting it up and going at it. It makes me extremely happy to know that like the studs that we have on the defensive side of the ball are actually going to start meeting what we have on the offensive side. And so I just say this as a Sooner fan, just be okay with seeing who we're seeing, because I think that we have early in the year, we're going to see a lot of the starters get out there, give some good effort. I think that we're going to see, again, we're going to be going into the game recaps and seeing 30, 40 guys who have played on defense early in the season. We're going to see those types of things because there's so many guys that you will absolutely need to see on the field, and we're here for it. Yeah. And I would even, you get in a couple of other games, and hopefully you put it on there. And like I kind of started to say that earlier.
Well, I think you kind of have to find out what they are in those first 3 games so that you know whether you can depend on them later, right?
Yeah,
some of them.
Yeah. You want to see what is a Boganowski if you just look at him and you say it's the end of the game, go have a blast. Like, what does that guy go do? What does Kip Lewis and Phil Picciotti and all these other guys do when they finally get their chance?
Do we keep forgetting about Phil Picciotti? I haven't.
What? Picciotti, he missed it with the ACL last year, and he looks like he's finally getting some of the bulk back. So most of these guys, this team is going to look rather large going into the year. And I would just say if you saw the spring game, somebody brought it up. I think it might have been Lemon earlier. Is you saw the size difference between Hawkins at the end of his senior year at the spring game and then actually right now. And so, these guys are making these massive leaps physically, and that's why we're here to see all these kids is to see them get the potential.
Well, and I think that's why I know to me, I was saying this on Coach Sean's show, the Alabama guy, the other day, and we were talking about it, and the reason that I feel like Oklahoma is going to be good, I'm not worried about the offense. Why would I worry about an Oklahoma offense ever?
Yeah.
I just don't. But the reason why I believe that the floor is 8, maybe 9 wins, and they could actually go and win 10 and 11 games this year is because this defense is going to be, it's going to be night and day different from even last year when it was improved from the year before that. These guys have an opportunity to start. They're going to be on these lists coming up, and again, we were talking about that competition in the room, and you're saying Kyle said he'd be surprised if Kip isn't the starter. Would you though?
Yeah.
The thing, I'm not saying anything bad. Again, this is nothing bad about a single player, not at all. But we're talking about Lewis Carter coming in, Phil Picciotti you just brought up, Almost Siegel, we're talking top 100 baller kids that yes, you have to learn, but I feel like we're figuring that out towards the end of last year, and everything we've heard is how Lewis Carter has been that guy all spring.
Yeah, and you can't discount too much what it means to have some of these kids coming in never experiencing a Grinch defense, never having to relearn what they learned for 2 years. Now you have these guys coming in with Stutzman, with Downs, with Bowman, all these guys leading the way that have now been in the system for going on their third year. And we're going to start seeing how that, because you don't have to clean out the garage before you organize it. It's empty. So you can just bring it in and do whatever you want to do. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a huge factor in all of this.
Boomer, don't be saying that crap. I do not hate Jaren Kanak, man. I do not hate Jaren Kanak. I don't hate a single player that wears OU, period.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing to not hate any single player. So, but we're gonna put a bow on this bad boy. I appreciate everybody pulling up today. Again, we're gonna be back on Wednesday. Jay will be back in town, and Jason, you're doing morning show now on top of some of the other stuff. You get to let everybody know where you're doing your stuff at.
Yeah, it's still at CFB-Pod, Hall of Fame College Football with Jason the Coach. We've been doing the at least 3 days a week right now. We're doing the Rise and Shine College Football. A lot of Sooner stuff, but, stuff from obviously all around the country. We've got tomorrow I'm going to actually have Jake Merrill, another one of the – he played at Washington, safety there. Also, but he does a lot of SEC stuff with Ty and those guys, from the Alabama guys. So, enjoying being able to do that stuff in the morning. A lot of people are getting in there and watching it and stuff. So we're talking a lot about different stuff. And there's lots of stuff to talk about, man. We are now 78 days away from week 0. College football is almost here, Coop.
It's coming up. Yeah, no, I got to doing something for work the other day. I started doing I bought tickets to the Super Bowl for work the other day for a prize and tickets to the national championship game. So that was pretty cool thing for me to be able to do. Dropping a decent amount of coin on that one. But no
chunk of change, huh?
not out of my pocket, thank God. But no,
yeah.
It's been really, really great. Just getting ready for this. We're going to see a lot. We saw ABC, ESPN put out the schedule for all the games, and so we might jump into that again here. But if you guys haven't already, like, subscribe, and if you got a fan out there that is looking for content to get jacked up, or you find somebody who used to be in a spot kind of like our buddy Sooner Cowboys, where maybe you just weren't sure about what to really grasp and be positive about, Sooner Cowboys has seen the lights.
If you find Sooner Cowboys, let us know.
I will say this really, really fun thing I found out today, and about 6 people sent me text messages. Several people tweeted. So obviously last name is Cooper. We named my son Witten, not after Jason Witten or anything like that, but found out today that Jason Witten's son, his name is Cooper Witten, and my son's name is Witten Cooper. And no, I'm not in HR. But that was kind of a nutty deal. So, but he was at camp this weekend too. I would say that if Jason Witten's son is a tight end, let's go ahead and bring him on, and you let him just absolutely take whatever time he needs, because Jason Witten still is one of the biggest conundrum for me of watching pro, college, high school, fake football, whatever it is. You watch Jason Witten and you think, I will put $90 that he cannot do anything on that football field. And then he just goes out and does it. And he just does it and just produces. So love Jason Witten. So again, guys, appreciate you all pulling up. We will be back on Wednesday, and hang out on the Twitters. We're just start seeing some of the offers and news and names popping out from the camp this week. But until Wednesday, we will catch you guys later.